Hi guys, my name is Ashley and I'm a mom of 2 little girls. I have a 2.5-year-old toddler named Kylie and I have a 6-month-old named Mia. I've been really excited to film this Montessori video in particular for you guys because it's just something that I am so incredibly passionate about, and that is the topic of eating in a Montessori home. For a lot of parents, meal times can be a super stressful time of the day, and I really love the fact that in a Montessori environment, there really is a lot less stress on it simply because of the way that it's structured. I stumbled across the idea of using Montessori philosophies at home with your children when my first child was just 6 months old. So I kind of went into the whole solid food adventure with a Montessori mindset. And even though we are still kind of on that journey, I feel like I've kind of come out the other side now with an older toddler with a really fresh perspective on how to approach it the second time around with my baby. And then of course, if you guys are going to be following along with Mia's solid food journey, she literally just started eating solid foods this week. So that will be something that you will see on this channel either through our weekly family vlogs or also as part of the new baby-led weaning mini series that I'm starting to film. I'm actually going to be posting the first video for that tomorrow, so stay tuned. I'm going to post one video related to baby-led weaning every single Friday. Again, it'll be a mini series, so it's only gonna be about a month's worth of videos, but it will definitely be enough to get you started if you are interested in baby-led weaning with a Montessori mindset. So from one busy parent to another, today I would like to talk to you guys a little bit about the Montessori approach to eating. So in any Montessori environment, that includes the classroom and home, there's always this focus on this little triad of preparing the environment, preparing the adult, which would be you, and then the child's role and the interaction between those 3 things. So let's go ahead and start out with preparing the environment. As a parent, you have a couple of immediate decisions that you have to make before you actually jump into solid foods with your baby. The first is where your child is actually going to be eating their solid foods. For many families, the traditional setup is going to be placing your baby into a high chair for all of their meal times. However, with that said, if you are trying to approach this with a much more traditional Montessori perspective, then you might consider starting with a weaning table from day 1. And if you've never heard of a weaning table before, it's simply a child-sized table with a child-sized chair, preferably that your child can reach the floor with their feet while they're in a seated position. Usually the chair also has arms so that the baby doesn't fall out of the chair, especially in the beginning when they're still kind of really learning to maintain their balance. And you certainly don't want a baby who cannot crawl yet to be falling out of their chair either. So that is why I personally have decided to take a hybrid approach to it. What I did with my toddler and what I'm also planning to do with my baby Mia right now is I'm actually keeping them in a high chair at the table or kind of near the table with the tray for the first couple of months, just until they start crawling. And once they start crawling, then I transition to a weaning table, because at that point they can start beginning to learn how to get themselves in and out of the chair on their own. And also by that point, they're much better at sitting and there's a lot less chance that they're going to fall out of the chair on accident. I will put links to a couple of really good ones down below. The one that we used with Kylie was simply just the IKEA lat children's table, and right now it's actually her art table over there in the playroom. So for Mia, we might decide to invest in something a little different, but again, I will put some links down below for you guys to check out what a proper weaning table should look like. The next part of your child's environment that you want to consider ahead of time is the use of real cutlery or utensils with your baby. The market is absolutely saturated with all kinds of really cute plastic silverware, and while those are fine to use, I personally find that the plastic tends to be very slippery, especially for a baby just learning how to stab pieces of food with a fork. Sometimes the food doesn't stay on there and it gets a little bit frustrating for your child, and really you want to be setting them up for success. So you can purchase a normal set of toddler-sized silverware that basically just looks like the real adult thing, but it's kind of scaled down. That is what I used with Kylie from the time that she was a baby. However, there are all kinds of really cool other options out there, some that have little grippy handles that make it easier for a baby with small fingers to grab onto. There's even a brand new set I just saw online the other day that I'm actually really bummed because they don't ship to the US yet, but it's called Nana's Manners cutlery, and it's actually kind of gripped like ergonomically to the shape of a baby or a small toddler's grip. But anything with a metal tip on the spoon and and the fork part is definitely the way to go. And finally, you also want to introduce your child to drinking out of an open cup from as early an age as possible. In a Montessori environment, you're basically skipping the sippy cup altogether. And if you're wondering if it's possible for a baby to even learn how to drink out of an open cup, yes, they absolutely can. And I'm gonna take that a step further for you. In a Montessori environment, you're also supposed to introduce your child to a real glass cup. We're not talking plastic sippy cups or those really cool 360 Munchkin cups that I see everybody using these days. We're not talking about things with handles on it that make it easier for your child to bring up to their face. We're just talking about a regular old glass cup. And usually for a baby or a toddler who's just learning how to use one, you want to use actually a shot glass. There's a very specific set of shot glasses that are made from tempered glass, and they have withstood my child throwing them onto the ground several times without breaking. They're also ridged along the outside, and they come in a pack of 6. You can purchase them on Amazon for really cheap, and they're just a great all-around cup for a baby to start learning how to drink from. If you're wondering why the use of real glass versus plastic, you might obviously be thinking, well, that is a little dangerous, isn't it? But hopefully your child is being supervised during all of their meal times, so you're not leaving them alone with a glass cup to potentially hurt themselves. The reason that glass is used in a Montessori home as opposed to plastic is just the idea that the child learns from as early an age as possible, again, to take care of the things that they have in their environment, to handle glass cups with care and learn how to pick it up gently and set it back down gently without breaking it. If a break does happen to occur, then it's a natural consequence and it's a lesson in, wow, I need to be a little bit more careful. Again, this is 100% adult supervised, especially in the beginning, but I can tell you from personal experience, my daughter has never actually broken one of her glass cups, ever. It's actually quite amazing because she does have a sippy cup, like a plastic one with a straw that we take on the go with us, and I have watched her about 10,000 times drop that cup onto the ground simply because she knows it's not going to break. But if I ever give her one of her glass cups at mealtime, she very carefully picks it up with 2 hands, drinks out of it, and sets it down very carefully again. So it just goes to show you that they can learn the difference and that they do know. The same goes for your child's actual dinnerware, like their plates and bowls. At family meal times, my daughter eats off of a normal ceramic plate just like the rest of us. I just use one of the smaller like side dish plates for her so that it's more proportional for her size and the size of her meals. It doesn't mean that you can't use plastic plates for other times of the day like snacks and whatnot. It's honestly a personal decision for you and your family and what you're most comfortable with. But just know that in a Montessori environment, it is encouraged to use real dinnerware with your child also. And if you teach them from an early age, again, to be careful with their dinnerware and not toss it off the table, then those things don't happen. Okay, so that's about it for setting up the environment for your child for eating. The next thing that I want to talk about is preparation of the adult, aka you. Your role in this entire process is primarily to kind of mentally prepare yourself going into this for the idea that this whole Montessori approach to eating looks a lot different than you might have grown up with or that you might see your friends or relatives doing with their young children. So as long as you can kind of wrap your head around that and make peace with it, then you're going to be in a good place starting out. The other thing that you have to decide for yourself before you start is what approach to eating you want to use with your child, or if you want to use a combination of approaches. If you're totally new to this, you might not realize that there are kind of 2 major camps when it comes to feeding a baby. The first is when babies are started on rice cereals and fruits and veggies that are pureed out of little jars or pouches. They're hand-fed by the adult, typically from a baby spoon, and that's what a lot of pediatricians will also recommend to you. And if that is the route that you choose to go, then there is nothing wrong with that. We will talk about how you can still make it more child-led in just a moment. But the other camp, and this is the one that I personally chose to follow with my toddler Kylie, and I'm also doing it with my baby Mia now, and that is baby-led weaning. So I'm not going to be going into all the specifics on what baby-led weaning is or how to do it in this video, because that's exactly what I'm doing in the little mini series that I was telling you guys about earlier. So if you want to know more about how to get started with baby-led weaning and just learn the basics basics, then again, be sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's video because that's where I'm gonna be diving into all that information. For this video, all you really need to know is that baby-led weaning is where you basically skip all of the rice cereals and the purees and you jump right to finger foods with your baby from day one. They are being fed soft finger foods that you can squish between your fingers that makes it a little bit easier for them to chew and swallow, especially in the beginning when they don't have teeth yet. So thinking like things like bananas, avocados, steamed sweet potatoes, pears. The cool thing about baby-led weaning is that it is baby-led by its very nature. The parent's role in that is very hands-off. You basically just prepare the food and set a meal time, and then you put it in front of your child on the tray or on the table, and then you let them decide what to pick up, what to take bites of, whether or not they just want to squish it all over the place or actually try some. It's a very gradual, natural process, and I personally have found that this was a great approach, especially in a Montessori home, because you're supposed to be encouraging independence and self-sufficiency in all aspects of a child's life as best as you can. And with baby-led weaning, you're not doing anything for them. They're basically doing it themselves. You just kind of sit back and sit there for supervision and safety purposes, but otherwise it's up to the child. Now you might immediately be thinking to yourself, wow, I really like the idea of baby-led weaning, but the idea of my child choking on a piece of food is really scary and I'm not sure about that. And again, I'm not gonna go into details right now in this video on it because it's a whole kind of mini topic in and of itself when you talk about baby-led weaning, and I did include that in the video that you guys will see tomorrow. But I will tell you up front that it's not something that you need to be super concerned about. Now, if you do decide to go the traditional route of rice cereals and purees with your baby, there is still a way to ensure that your child is learning to be independent from as early as possible. And that basically starts with when you go to bring the spoon to your baby's mouth, you are not forcing the spoon in their mouth. You're actually waiting for them to open their food and accept the spoon and decide whether or not they actually want to take that next bite. And then once your child is actually capable of using the spoon by themselves, then at that point you can hand over the spoon and the bowl to your child and allow them to start the process of self-feeding, which happens a lot earlier than you might imagine. So no matter which route you decide to go, know that airplane spoons and doing silly dances to get your kid to open their mouth and all of just the general silliness that you see parents doing to accomplish their child eating, none of that is involved in meal times in a Montessori home. There's a saying that goes, food before one is just for fun. And it's really important to remember that because I think there's a lot of stress for a lot of parents in trying to make sure their child is eating foods as soon as they start solid foods. And if their child doesn't really look like they're consuming a whole lot, they immediately get really stressed out about it. And it's not something that you need to be worried about. Your job as the parent is to decide what healthy options to offer your child and to set some sort of a loose schedule or some meal times for your child to ensure that they're getting fed. But otherwise, the rest of it is on your child, which leads me right into the third part of this video, which is your child's role in the eating process. So there are 3 things in your child's life that as much as parents want to be able to control it, you're not going to be able to. And that is the process of learning to use the toilet, sleeping, and eating. You simply cannot physically force your child to do any of those 3 things. So the sooner you can kind of make peace with that for yourself, the better off you're going to be and the less stressed out you will be. So when it comes to meal times, your child's role is simply to decide what they're going to eat that you've offered and how much of it they're going to eat. If they choose not to eat anything, that's okay. Any pediatrician will tell you your child is not going to starve themselves. If they are truly hungry, they will eat. Now, I know there's a lot of questions that parents might have surrounding mealtime behavior expectations, throwing food, what to do if A happens, what to do if B happens, and that's not really within the scope of this video. This is more of an introduction on how to approach eating from a Montessori perspective. But if you are interested in learning a little bit more about some of those details, then be on the lookout for it in the baby-led weaning series. I'm gonna be doing a whole video dedicated just to mealtime behavior expectations. So that is all I have for you today regarding the Montessori approach to eating. If you have any questions about something that we talked about in this video, then please leave me a comment down below and I'd love to chat with you guys about it. And if you liked today's video, then please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Just in case you are new to my channel, I did want to let you know that this video is part of a much larger series called Montessori at Home, which is aimed at providing practical tips and advice for busy parents like you and I for implementing Montessori philosophies at home with your children. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in learning more of, then I encourage you to consider subscribing to my channel channel so that you don't miss a new video, because I do upload a new one just like this one every single week. Thanks again so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.